Hey everybody, my name is Phillip Shepard. I'm a local real estate agent located right here in Northwest Arkansas. And Bentonville is going to reduce their housing costs in half? How are they going to do that? So, let's talk about that. But before we begin, if you could like and share this video with a friend or family, that would make the world of difference. I try to produce as much content as humanly possible about Northwest Arkansas, obviously. So liking and sharing can just make sure that everyone can live, work, and play all in NWA. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. Also, if you haven't been down to Northwest Arkansas quite yet, I made something called the NWA Starter Pack, and it sounds literally exactly what it is. It's a starter pack of all things, awesome things Northwest Arkansas. So if you want to know about the hospitals, if you want to know about the schools, if you want to know what's going on here, if you want to know all the cool events that are happening here, all the downtown sections, all the cool things, enter your address below. Just enter your address below, and I'll make sure to get that package shipped to you right away. It literally comes right to your home. Also, side note, it does come with your first free mountain bike, so that's pretty cool. And. It is my favorite four-letter F word. Free! So enter your information below, and I'll make sure to get that package shipped to you right away. All right, so yes, we are talking today about how is Bentonville, Arkansas going to actually reduce their housing costs literally in half, and the plan about that. So this video is going to be sectioned up into a couple different ways. This is going to be a two-part video. The first part, actually part one you're watching currently, is going to be the why. The second part that's coming out obviously very soon is going to be the how. So in this why section of the video, we're going to be talking about why Bentonville, Arkansas is doing this, and then why is NWA kind of really focused on this, and then obviously the ramifications of this whole plan altogether. The second part of the video, which is coming out like later, obviously the second part, or part two of another video, is coming out. There's going to be talking about how they're going to be doing that. So if you want to kind of do a little bit of a, we'll say cheating, so to speak, the information is linked below. It's a 66-page document laying out exactly how they're going to reduce housing costs by half in the next couple of years or so. So I'm very excited about this, of course. If you want to read 66 pages like I did, let me tell you, it was riveting to say. Actually, I really do enjoy it, so it was a lot of fun reading it, kind of seeing all the different stuff. But long story short, first part today, the why. Second, part two, different video, the how. So let's jump into the why. Obviously, Bentonville is focused on Project Arrow, as they call it, Project Arrow, why they're actually starting to do this in Bentonville, Arkansas. All right, so the first part of the why section is we're going to be stepping away from Bentonville for a hot minute and talking about Northwest Arkansas in general. So if you weren't aware, Northwest Arkansas has something very specific to itself that's unique across America, and it's called the NWA Council. So the NWA Council sits adjacent to all the different cities in Northwest Arkansas, and it basically sets, I would consider, the branding, the style, the initiatives of all things NWA. Hey, that's my name. So they set they set everything for Northwest Arkansas, all things. So when every single year, or at least every 5 years, they set a master plan. Every year or so, they bring in someone to make sure that their plan is being executed and organized and done properly. So every couple of years, they put out a regional plan that actually says what they're going to fix, how they're going to fix it, and then address the problems. The big overarching thing with NWA that's different is that we all are on the same team. Every single city is on the same team, but we all compete against each other to outperform so that all the consumers, us, me included, you potentially, are going to get the benefit of living in Northwest Arkansas. So the council can be adjacent to decide and make decisions, helping the cities set branding, bring people into the area. Like for instance, they are the ones who actually did the Bitcoin/bike free if you move to the area kind of initiative. So they can do a lot of those things that the cities don't necessarily have the capital to, or they're not necessarily have incentivized to do those things. So the council can actually set aside and do those different things. All right, so I say all that about the Northwest Arkansas Council, again, to step away from Bentonville for a second, because Northwest Arkansas Council for the last couple of years has had a heavy focus on affordable housing in Northwest Arkansas, because the fact that not that housing has gotten out of control or has obviously not been affordable, but the writing could be on the wall if things aren't done properly. They've hired a lot of people from larger cities that have seen the problems of larger cities, Austin, Portland, Seattle, whatever the city you want to put in place there. They've hired them all to help them understand how to avoid these situations. And the Northwest Arkansas Council is in heavy talks with all the cities in Northwest Arkansas to put plans in place to make sure housing stays affordable and gets even cheaper than that is currently. So it's cheaper for the future versus trying to, obviously the problem is once housing gets too expensive, it's hard to get it back down. And so a lot of these plans are built into the fact that everyone knows that housing could be a problem in the future. It isn't at the moment, but the problem is like, let's avoid those problems. I like to say avoiding Austin, because Austin has those issues where it's like, you know, obviously high growth area, but housing got a little out of control, obviously, as we were fully aware. So the Northwest Arkansas Council sees that problem. Bentonville, Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Centerton, they all see the problems. and they're starting to adjust them with their own plans. And this is actually from Bentonville itself, is their own plan, how to address the housing needs for the future. So the first part is obviously Northwest Arkansas Council, separate entity. They've adjusted these things. Now part 2 is actually, like I said before, how to avoid Austin. So I don't need to lecture anyone about like the problems that come with larger cities with unaffordable housing. So obviously Northwest Arkansas has the luxury of time. They have time on their side. Obviously Northwest Arkansas has grown a lot the last couple of years. We know this, the last probably 10 years or so. But the thing is, they still have a lot of time on their side. So they're investing their resources to avoid those issues. Like I said before, once you kind of hit that threshold where you can't stop, you can't stop. So Northwest Arkansas and Bentonville specifically is doing a very good job of addressing these problems before they actually have to like become out of control. And so it's really cool to see Bentonville, Arkansas develop their own plan. It has a lot of data in there. Like again, if you want to read for it, so much data pulled from all different places, from larger cities, small cities. Obviously all different government entities have been pulled into this, obviously data sets, to understand how to avoid those issues that Austin had, that Portland had, that Seattle had, that Chicago had, which I came from. So how to avoid those issues, this way they don't have to deal with them. They can kind of address them, like nip it in the bud, so to speak, before they actually become problems. And so what they're trying to do is, with this plan, and the why of it is how to avoid Austin, as I like to say. Whoa, before we jump on to the next point, I have something brand new called Instant Home Updates. And maybe you're using things like Realtor.com or Zillow.com to actually like look around the area for like rentals or for housing around here. Way too slow. Notifications, way too slow. So I made something called Instant Home Updates, and it sounds exactly what it is. It's literally Instant Home Updates. So enter your information below, square footage, where do you want to live, bedrooms, bathrooms, all the cool things. Enter your information below and make sure you don't miss a single notification when it comes to homes for rent or for sale, all in Northwest Arkansas. Also, every single Friday, I send an email out just kind of talking about all things NWA. What's going on here? What new musicians are coming here? What new festivals? What new business plans? What new city plans are in works here? What new headquarters? Because there's a lot of headquarters moving here. If you want to be in know of all things NWA, enter your email below, and I will make sure you don't miss a single notification when it comes to obviously things going on here. And a little side note, I do admit you will get a little FOMO. A little fear of missing out. Sorry about that. Not sorry. But I do admit you'll be the most informed person eventually when you make your way down to Northwest Arkansas. And so number 3, some people might be thinking like, why would this be an issue? Like some cities necessarily don't always care about uncontrollable housing. Like for instance, New York, no one cares about that. I mean, they do, but they don't, because New York pricing is out of control. LA and California, no one cares. Like no big plans are in place to actually like try to not control, but try to help along housing houses by pricing, because it just is what it is. Whereas Northwest Arkansas is so different is because Northwest Arkansas is designed to be a place for all people. Whether you want to mountain bike, whether you want to be outside, whether you want to be inside, whether you're a remote worker, whether you're a big corporation, small corporation, whether you have a startup company, it's a place meant for all. And so when you're a place meant for all, you really need to make sure that it's designed for all. And that's why we've spent so much time developing so many cool things to do here, because we want everyone to come here, because we really do believe it's the best place to live in America. Me included, of course. I certainly do, and a lot of other people do as well. And so what they're trying to identify is that if housing gets out of control, how do we hire the best teachers to continue to work here? How do we hire the best firefighters? How do we hire the best policemen? What if we want to have some of the best hairstylists, the best barbers? Whatever the case is, how do we encourage them to move from wherever they are currently and then to Northwest Arkansas? If it's meant to be a place for all, then how do we do that if housing's out of control? So we're going to talk about the economic flywheel in just a second, just a minute. I want to talk about that because this is my own little Phillip design, so to speak. But the part of what they're doing here with the Arrow Project, which obviously link below, read about it, 66 pages of fun times. But Bentonville's addressing this is because they see the potential problems that Austin and all these places have, and they're going to be eventually hitting this thing called the missing middle. And we'll talk about this in the second part of the video, part 2, about what is the missing middle and what that looks like. But the missing middle is that part of like just people like you and me, where it's like we have, jobs that we just do on a regular basis that we want to live here because we enjoy the areas so much, but we potentially get priced out. And now this won't happen for the future if this is unaddressed. But the nice thing with Bentonville and NWA specifically is they're already trying to address this, which is a good sign to me as a person who lives here, because I believe in what they're doing here and they're trying to make it a place for all. And so if they weren't doing these things, I'd be like, listen guys, this is a problem. But they are addressing these issues. And so they are addressing the issues of typical people that want to move here for that missing middle. And what does that look like? How do they address, obviously that's gonna be the second part of the video, how do they address that missing middle of America, of NWA, that want to live here, enjoy here, be part of the community, but we can't afford it? Obviously, that's not the case at the moment, but if they were to continue on the path and just did willy-nilly forever, it might become Austin, it might become those places. But obviously that's not going to happen because there are a lot of things in place to make sure that it never happens. And so this is one of these big things we're solving, is how do we solve the housing potentially for the missing middle, for the firefighter, for people like me, for policemen, for whatever the case is. How do we solve that? And that's obviously this Arrow plan is going to help that. And so that is exciting to see them start addressing that. And so number 4 is really what we kind of a summary of all the things I've mentioned so far. And it's truly, this is a bellwether, this is a plumb line, this is what it's gonna look like for all of Northwest Arkansas. And so every single city is putting into place how to address affordable housing. And so how to make sure that missing middle, it's not missing at the moment, but it potentially could be, how did each city going to address that? And Bentonville is kind of setting the bar with the Northwest Arkansas Council, of course, to start helping push that forward. And again, kind of what I mentioned before is that every city competes against each other, yet we're on the same team. But once Bentonville sets their stake in the ground, how they're going to identify it and how they're actually going to do it, Fayetteville, Springdale, Centerton, Bella Vista, all these places will follow suit with their own plans, because if NWA is supposed to be meant for all people, every city has to deal with it. So I'm excited to see what Bentonville does. Obviously, like, this is a plan for about a year or 2 or 3 in the making, and they're finally going to start implementing it. So I'm excited to see it all plan out, because I'm very excited to say the least. All right, so that kind of summarizes the why Bentonville, Arkansas is doing this, why Northwest Arkansas Council is implementing plans like this. But we need to talk about a different part of the why, and that is like the economic flywheel of growth. So there's I consider 4 different parts of economic growth. Whether it's a flywheel, whether it's interconnected, it doesn't make a difference. But there's 4 things you need to do. You need to bring people. Those people end up bringing businesses. Those businesses end up opening jobs, which then eventually obviously creates affordable housing. So if you have those 4 things, there's a good shot you could have a really awesome place to live in. And so what they're trying to do is make sure that all 4 are available at all times. So for instance, we have amazing jobs. We still have so many job openings we need to fill. So we need to bring more people. But if housing becomes unaffordable, then people won't come here. And if housing does become unaffordable, then which increases the salaries of people here, that means it's gonna hurt the actual stock prices potentially of some of the bigger businesses here. Then it becomes a cyclical problem of like housing, jobs, people moving here, like openings. So it just, all 4 have to exist cohesively and well. And so one of the big, in my field, real estate, one of the biggest factors that will always be forever and will always be a thing is making sure housing is affordable. And again, if Northwest Arkansas is supposed to be a place for all people, then housing has to be addressed. We don't want to become Austin. We don't want to become an unaffordable place for people to go to. Northwest Arkansas has always been designed and intended for people to come here, to start fresh, start new, families, enjoy the outdoors, to truly live, work, and play, all in NWA, obviously. And so if housing becomes unaffordable, if you don't have all 4, if you don't have people coming here, if you don't have jobs, if you don't have actual businesses moving here, and if you don't have affordable housing, if one of those pieces is missing, it really becomes challenging to grow an area. And so the Northwest Arkansas Council in Bentonville and other cities they've been doing this for a while, but they're actually starting to implement these plans to make sure that they can cut housing, I would say very quickly, to make sure that everyone can move here to Northwest Arkansas so they can truly live, work, and play. All in NWA. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Again, if you are thinking about coming down to Northwest Arkansas, download my 3-day itinerary link below. Maybe you're an adventurer, maybe you're a sports person, maybe you're a foodie, maybe you're a sightseer. Whatever it is, there's definitely a 3-day itinerary for you. So go ahead and download it and use it when you get down here. Also, when you come down here, I can give you the $10 tour so I can kind of show you around the whole area. Plus, we can check out some homes for sale or for rent and see how far your dollar will go in Northwest Arkansas compared to where you're coming from. All right, guys, let's see you next one.